Against the Prime Minister to be adjourned. Worsens. The army stands by while the Prime Minister and the Chief Justice battle for power. If Nawaz Sharif is found guilty of contempt of court, it could lead to his disqualification as Prime Minister. But uncertainty and ISIS in Pakistan took an ugly turn today. Crowds of government supporters chanting slogans against the Chief Justice stormed the Supreme Court building and brought proceedings to a halt. Police and security forces deployed at the Supreme Court stood by and did nothing. The upshot of all this was that a critical contempt of court case faced by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has been adjourned. A senior government minister has told the BBC he condemned the disruption of the court hearing and had personally apologized to the Chief Justice. It's the latest in a series of run-ins between the supporters of Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and the judiciary. Nawaz Sharif was elected in February with a large parliamentary majority, but having been sacked from the job once before, he spent much of his time trying to strengthen the Prime Minister's powers in relation both to the President and the judiciary. This latest battle began when Mr. Sharif clashed with his Chief Justice, Sajjad Shah, over the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court. Nawaz Sharif allegedly made a defamatory remark about the Supreme Court, and Mr. Ali Shah last week duly charged him with contempt of court. If convicted, Mr. Sharif would be obliged to step down as Prime Minister. So his government rushed through a bill to allow the Prime Minister the right of appeal. But then the President, Farooq Leghari, declined to sign that into law. Mr. Sharif then threatened to impeach the President. At this point, the army stepped in. Chief of Staff Jahangir Karamat persuaded both sides to accept a cooling-off period. That cooling-off period was up today, when the Prime Minister again had to appear in the Supreme Court. As our Islamabad correspondent, Phil Goodwin reports, it was then that the battle started to hot up again.
Nawaz Sharif's party, which blames the Chief Justice for the crisis in the country by hearing cases against the Prime Minister, thinks he's on the way out. Party supporters were in a triumphant mood outside the court as the proceedings were due to begin. A struggle has emerged between the Supreme Court judges over the Chief Justice. Some have ruled that he's suspended from office. The new controversy came just as a contempt case against the Prime Minister was due to resume, which could lead to his disqualification as Prime Minister if he's found guilty. Earlier in the week, Nawaz Sharif's government was dreading this day, but now with the Supreme Court in open turmoil about the Chief Justice, there's renewed vigour, and there have been extraordinary scenes. The trouble started when one of Nawaz Sharif's politicians clambered from the crowd over the gates to get inside, and the crowd followed. In the excitement, others pushed through the gates and ran towards the court. The police and security forces in riot gear stood by and did nothing. Orders to disperse the crowd never came. There's always reluctance to do anything to anger the governing party, even when they're storming towards the Supreme Court. A few members of the crowd got into the court building and some ran onto the roof of the